Russia has helped amplify and spread false and misleading internet claims about recent hurricanes in the U.S. and the federal government's response, part of a wider effort by the Kremlin to manipulate America's political discourse before the election does get underway. Again, that research was conducted by experts, and I want to talk a little bit more about those who were involved. We do have Melanie Smith, the Director of Research for the Institute for Strategic Dialogue U.S. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and help break it down.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, first off, I do want to talk about ISD's findings here. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you were able to discover when it comes to Russia and disinformation?
Sure. We monitor foreign information manipulation and interference on a really global basis. So we look at a range of actors, but where we're focused on the US, Russia is obviously a really high priority. And we're mostly interested in the ways in which they try to manipulate and mislead people via social media. In this most recent report, we looked at how Russian propaganda was amplifying false and misleading content about the response to the hurricanes in order to portray the US as unstable and weak. So they really took the hurricane aftermath as their latest opportunity to push their usual message that US agencies like FEMA are crumbling and that public funds are being misappropriated from hurricane relief and being sent to Ukraine, which is categorically false. And at a high level, this fits the pattern that we see quite often. These are obviously not situations that foreign actors are creating, but they are pouring gasoline on fires that are already burning.
Is Russia, based on your research, attempting to help out one candidate or another? Do their efforts help one candidate over another, or is it basically aimed at both?
Generally speaking, influence campaigns are more interested in sowing distrust in the election process and exacerbating divisions than they are about getting one candidate elected over the other. So this time, Russian influence campaigns have been found to be playing both sides of the US political landscape. They prefer to target candidates rather than outright endorse or praise anybody. So they have been producing content targeting Trump and also content targeting Vice President Harris. Having said that, I think the general consensus among researchers and journalists who keep an eye on these things is that this cycle we've seen more content favoring Trump as the next president, due in large part likely to his policy on Ukraine.
And as far as Russian disinformation, have we seen this as heavily in past elections, or is this the most that we've seen so far over the years?
It's pretty hard to quantify, but I would say, obviously, we know that Russia ran influence campaigns in 2016 and also in 2020. In 2016, Russian operatives infiltrated American communities via Facebook and other platforms. They created fake organizations and movements to try and give this air of credibility to the propaganda that they were spreading. And they also hacked documents and leaked those at strategic moments throughout the campaign. In 2020, we saw them exacerbating divisions around issues like racial justice, protests. At this time, in terms of whether it's more aggressive or not, I would say that we've seen more overt examples of information manipulation, but the campaigns are also more resilient and more sophisticated than they used to be. So it may be that we're paying more attention. It may be that the volume has increased. It's difficult to know.
And we've heard about this with Iran as well. Does it appear that Iran and Russia are working together in any way, or is this two separate situations? Do we know?
They do appear to be separate efforts, but we definitely see these actors learning from each other's tactics and evolving on that basis. So, for example, the kind of impersonation of media outlets that we see from Russian campaigns, including outlets like Fox News, Washington Post. We learned about this in a recent DOJ seizure of those websites back in September. That's something that Kremlin-aligned actors have been doing for over 2 years now and is a really kind of hallmark tactic of their campaigns. Over the summer, we learned that Iranian actors had also set up fake news websites to target both sides of the US political spectrum. So we know that Iranian operatives have also been charged with hacking the Trump campaign. And hack and leaks have been a feature of Russian disinformation strategy for a while. So you can see that Russian and Iranian actors are kind of playing off of each other's tactical evolution in this case.
All right, the big question here that a lot of people are wondering, what advice do you have for Americans who are out there watching to make sure that they don't become the victim of misinformation or disinformation, as we are just days away from the presidential election, but also probably good to know just in general?
I think it's a really important question. It's important to remember that no one is immune to this. So foreign actors are very, very good at blending in and disguising themselves, which is part of their continued success. My advice on this would be the same as I would generally give for users of social media over the next couple weeks. We're down to 10 days now. There will be an extremely high volume of information about this election reaching you online. Slow down, read the articles that you're sharing beyond just the headlines, and interrogate the sources a little bit more closely. So that means going to a profile or a page, looking at the other content that has been posted by that account, and ensuring that you're aware of any biases that may be inherent in that content. Be really overly skeptical of anything sensational in these next 10 days. And similarly, my last piece of advice would be, if you're seeing folks in your own networks that you know personally who are spreading false and misleading information, particularly about the election process itself, I would encourage reaching out to them and trying to have an open and respectful conversation about it.
All right, Melanie Smith there. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and break down a topic that a lot of people are discussing right now. Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
I don't think so. I think just that last message about remaining vigilant, social media users needing to remain vigilant online. And also, we are in a different situation than we were in 2020 with regard to what social media platforms are willing to do to curb the spread of this type of propaganda and disinformation. So it's more important than ever that users really take it upon themselves to interrogate the information that they're seeing.
All right, Melanie, thank you again for being here with us, and I'm sure we'll be checking back in as we get closer and closer. We appreciate it.
Thanks.